Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. Let's watch.
I politely declined to give you my address and said no thank you because flowers is not what I'm looking for.
No, I'm going to disagree with that. You politely declining we're going to disagree with that.
I said no thank you. And
you did not say it. You did. Okay.
Pull the text up right now.
Okay. I mean, even if she was rude, who cares? I think that, I mean, I guess there's kind of a line. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if this conversation matters at all, really. They both have a lot of contempt for each other. And, normally I don't have people in my office that are at this phase usually. They don't usually seek therapy. Plus, they would have to have a goal of, I want to improve my relationship. I don't think either one of them would have that goal.
Because I'm fucking tired of you doing this bullshit where you take things and you flip it around to try to make like it's something it's not. Okay. You don't know me. I am me.
Clearly.
I've been authentically me since...
It's interesting. I wonder if that's accurate. The edit kind of looks like that he tries... Well, yeah. I mean, he said she spins things and makes me the bad guy. Huh? How is that? I mean, that's pretty direct, right? So now maybe there's a lot of stuff that's happening that's left out of the show. She's pretty prickly at times, but given the edits, I think what she's doing here makes a lot of sense. And she has a lot of reasons to tell him off. I mean, the callousness, like I said, if he had broken up with her in a totally different way, or even if he had spent that night until the morning with Sarah and come home and say, look, I'm sorry. I didn't do anything with Sarah last night. Nothing happened, but I did some thinking, and I don't think I should be in a committed relationship right now. I didn't cheat. I don't plan on doing anything with Sarah. I don't even know, but I figured out that since I was willing to spend so much time with Sarah, we didn't do anything, but and I didn't feel compulsion to leave or to call you or something, and that's not a good sign. It doesn't say that my heart is in the right place. I'm really sorry. Okay, something like that. And then you break up, fine. But the way he did it, his sunglasses on, looking at his phone like every other guy on this season, and then, I did it. What are you gonna do? Then you're gonna get a little talking to if you choose to talk with the person that you did that to.
Day one when we met in the pods. You, on the other hand, are a con artist.
Okay.
So normally I'd be like, but given what the reporting is, and Laura doesn't even know this at that point, right? She has only what she has here, right? She has no idea what sort of accounts from people in his life will claim. So normally I'd say, con artist, that's pretty, it's because it's common to, when you're broken up with, to think you never loved me, that sort of thing. And sometimes that's true, but usually it's not. And usually it's like, you conned me, you tricked me, you lied to me this whole time, you never loved me. And I will say, well, it's normal to think that, but it's not necessarily rational. But given this scenario, it totally is. The only time we saw him being affectionate was when he was apologizing. And that one looked funny to me too. I don't know if that's the edit as well. The rest of the time he was real jokey, and that there's a distance to that jokiness, right? So there could be some conning. There's a scale, right? He could be completely not only a con artist here, but generally a con artist. The things he's exhibiting, it's raising that red flag. But of course, it's not enough data to say that, but or a more a lighter version of someone that did con her, that he had sort of liked her, wasn't really into her, got engaged to her, quickly found out that because clearly he didn't really want to be with her. He would not have done what he did with Sarah if he wanted to be with Laura. And so yeah, I mean, he gave the impression that he was into her when he clearly was not. Maybe he used to be kind of. So that's at the lighter end. So I don't know. What do you think?
to fully commit to someone and protect their heart and protect them in your relationship, you think you were prepared to do that? No.
Okay.
There's no way in hell.
Did I not say I owned what I did? Have I not said that repeatedly?
Yeah. So I was thinking, if he's not a con artist, he would, if he really wanted to at least try to convince her otherwise, he would say, no, you have that. I was in love with you. It was true, something. But we didn't even really see that when he was supposedly in love with her, right? And then he goes into this, have I not taken full responsibility? Ugh. Add this to the list of OCD and all the other, gaslighting, all these phrases, these words that will put it on my bingo card, that the amount of times that people say, I'm taking responsibility, I apologize. Just saying the words, I can say that I'm a billionaire and I'm an astronaut. That doesn't make me a billionaire and an astronaut. Just saying you take accountability doesn't mean you took accountability. I can say that I have a doctorate in physics. That doesn't mean I have a doctorate in physics.
Oh, I don't know, 3 days later, and then you're confused why I don't meet you with joy and happiness. What happens in your head?
So 3 days later, was that the conversation they had between the two of them, or did they have another conversation and he took accountability? Given his presentation that we've seen on the edit, I have a hard time believing that he actually apologized and felt remorse and conveyed that. I can take accountability for things that I'm not remorseful for, right? Like, well, when I was doing the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, people were accusing me of all sorts of things from both sides. There were super fans of Johnny Depp that were claiming that I was this cuck who was a pussy and I was, some sort of social justice warrior or something. I had Amber Heard fans that were attacking me for being a misogynist, and I had no idea what I was doing. I believe, I don't have direct evidence of this, but I framed it. Someone even submitted a complaint against my license, trying to get my license taken away to treat people because of talking about my clinical experiences. And the claims that they had was that, what was it? Well, it's right there. I could stand up and go look. But they were saying that I was falsely claiming that I'm a doctor. Even though I have a doctorate, and that's what doctors are, people that have doctorates for the most part. Anyway, so obviously it didn't fly with the licensing board. But yeah, I'll take accountability for hurting people's feelings or saying things that people didn't agree with, but I don't have any remorse for it. I mean, there were bits, there were emails where I would have, I guess, some remorse for maybe not being more careful. And I did whole episodes where all I did is apologize. But anyone can take accountability for something. Anyone can say, so someone can legit take accountability like he did. I take accountability. I did that. I was with Sarah till 5 a.m. Okay. And?
I'm not going to agree on shit. I disagree with you on that.
Okay. Great.
So everybody can feel the tension between us at this point, and can we at least just put it aside for today? Because I do want to try and have a good time with the people that are around here.
Why the fuck is that your concern?
Yeah. I would imagine most people in his shoes would say, I will defer to Laura. I already mistreated her, so although I want to hang out with my, but it also just, it's another tick in the column of something going on with his personality, because how could he handle this? I just imagine that even if you didn't do this to her, you broke up with her. At the very least, you spent a whole night until 5 a.m, drove Sarah home. To have no fear of coming to this party, because you don't know what people are going to do. You imagine Laura is going to have some words. You imagine her friends, maybe even some of the guys, and you just show up and you're fine. You're cool as a cucumber. If I were in his shoes, even if I had broken up with her and been nice about it, I'd be like, oh, no. That's attention I don't want to have. And that says something. I don't know what, but there are things I can say. For you clinicians, you might know what I'm talking about, but I'm not diagnosing. I'm just saying it's a red flag.
Your engagement just ended. It's absurd. You are not a man. You're not man enough for me. You've never fucking have been, okay?
So this is where people cross the line. I don't fault Laura, similar to Vanderpump Rules situation with, I'm forgetting everyone's names. Ariana. So when Ariana was angry, and if you just took a snippet and didn't know the context, you'd be like, whoa, that woman is being unfair and mean to particularly Raquel, but also to Tom. But given the context and given the newness of it, given what happened, given the pain she was going through, given the fact that she has to sit in front of cameras for hours and hours listening to Tom just make excuses and blame her, it's going to hurt. You're going to get angry. And given that Ariana, I think, is kind of a vocal person, she says what's on her mind, some pretty hostile things come out. I get it. And if she wasn't on the show, she wouldn't be in that position, right? She wouldn't want to be in that position. So same with Laura. She wouldn't be here and he wouldn't, they wouldn't have this situation. And so she wouldn't be in the situation to have to deal with this, And so now maybe she walks away and says he deserves it. And maybe a lot of people think he deserves it. But I don't know. I just think I guess it's kind of a decorum or a self-respect thing that only I can say for myself. If I were Laura, I wouldn't want to go there. I wouldn't even want to give them the satisfaction of revealing this to them. I'd just be like, yeah, you've shown yourself, and see ya. I feel pain, but I don't consider you worth me talking to you about it. So that's just my thing. And I don't know. What do you think? Is this, when you saw this originally, were you like, yeah, or were you like, whoa?
End of story. Do whatever the fuck you want with whoever the fuck you want.
That's fine.
The narcissism is literally nauseating. I wish you the best.
Same.
Go kick rock.
Go kick rocks. There's so many sayings on this season, and whenever I Google them, they don't really show up much. So, but I like it. Go kick rocks. Narcissism. Just say self-centered or lack of empathy. Just say that. I think that's what she means. Don't use a clinical label that most clinicians, or research shows half of clinicians don't really comprehend.
Do I need to beat his ass?
No one needs to beat his ass. He doesn't deserve anyone's attention.
I saw the DM that you sent to him.
Yeah.
You don't think it's a little outlandish to tell a man?
Okay, now this I can't believe how many things are happening at this picnic party thing. Every time I think, oh, okay, they're going to go on to the next scene, there's yet another love triangle drama that they're hitting hard. It's good to see, though, because I wondered, we haven't heard at all from Sarah after the pod, so I'm curious as to what she'll say here. There's a wide range of things. She could be like, yeah, similar to Jess, it's like, yeah, I was wrong, but I don't know, I just had these feelings. It was stupid and it was dumb, and I got drunk that one night and he came over and I just was stupidly hung out with him. It was so bad. I feel horrible. Or, well, what are you going to do? Especially now that Jeremy and Laura are over. I don't know. We'll see what kind of person Sarah is. But it's funny because I was just talking to my wife and I told her where I was at in the episode, and she's just like, oh boy. And so maybe that was, or something really horrible coming up, but she was maybe referring to just how many things happen at this thing.
That if the door's still open.
In this scenario, no, and not to interrupt you, in this scenario, no, because I'm realistic and I'm well aware of the situation.
Hold on, I didn't finish my question.
Okay, we'll hear this out, but I'm realistic. think what she's saying is I'm realistic that chances are things aren't going to work out. Okay, but it's one thing if you didn't know Laura. It would still be seen by many to be deplorable, but you know Laura, and you know they're engaged, right? It's not just a casual thing. So do you have no remorse? Maybe they're made for each other, Sarah and Jeremy.
My question is...
I didn't say is the door still open.
Okay, I read it. My question is, did Jeremy leave the door open for you and him?
Yeah. It's the way that he tried to stumble around, like, I just don't know.
Sarah, shut up.
Well, we did see that one snippet where he said, yeah, we'll definitely see each other. We'll see each other. And it did have that look of like, not just, yeah, we'll be friends. And when we see each other, it'll be nice to see you, but I'm with so-and-so now. It was, at least in the edit, it did look like Sarah would be reasonable to conclude that. But what do you do with that if you're Sarah? Do you immediately try to connect with him? I think most people would say no. Plus, do you want to be with a man or anybody that would do that? Like that. I see this happen sometimes where, when people have low self-esteem and certain things, traumas that are modeled to them, they might look for very obvious examples that they matter, and they might mistakenly associate seducing, if they can seduce somebody then, or get someone to love them, then that's one thing. But if they can get an unavailable person to love them, then that means they're special. And just getting someone to love them, they still feel like shit because of their traumas. So if they get someone unavailable, and so if she can get someone that's engaged, then that means I'm even more worth it. I'm more sought after. I'm more valuable, and I'm more valuable than who he's with, right? So I don't know. That's one possibility. Or she has no remorse and isn't capable of it. I don't think that's likely. It's not common. You roll the dice, and it's extremely unlikely. Even with this behavior, when you see this behavior, the chance that is some constitutional or personality of no empathy it's not likely, but we'll add that to the list.
With him is different than anyone else's, right?
For sure.
So over the period of time in the pods, I got to know him as a person. And the way that he made me feel and all of that. And also, I voiced that to him, how he made me feel.
Yeah.
So I could read him. I knew. The way he said it, the way he broke up.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Sarah's like, I know that he really loved me. We had a connection. I just know it. And what he decided to do was falsely break up with me and ask someone else to marry him. And that is a positive quality in a partner. Even if you felt a connection, you're just like, maybe one day. And then they immediately propose to someone, and then even kind of later indicate like they did when they spent all night together. That's the thing. If you date someone that is cheating, like with Tom, it all comes back to the worm with a mustache. If a worm with a mustache cheats on his current girlfriend with you, and you're the other woman and you're the secret person, it raises the chance that you will become the cheated on person and they will find another woman. Tom had allegations, and it seems possible that he had been cheating many times. There was evidence, not just with Raquel, but others, and God knows what wasn't caught on camera, right? So that's something to watch out for. Now, once a cheater, always a cheater, I'm not a fan of. If you date someone and they talk about having cheated in the past, particularly if it's in the distant past, depending on the circumstances, that's not a good indication that they're going to cheat on you. But if it starts that way, I don't know if we have research on that. Maybe I can look that up. But at the very least, it should be a red flag, because the person is demonstrating that they're capable of that. And unless there's a justification, which there wasn't, then you're saying, oh, he loves me, I feel special. But zoom out a little bit. Look at the person who thinks you're special. Look at what they're capable. He could have easily, if there was truly a connection, he would have asked you to marry him, or he would have said no to everybody and then called Sarah up later, right? Anyway, maybe Sarah has some justification or reason.
With me, right? He was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I just, I can't come up with like, I guess really it's just a feeling. Like, that's how it was. And then like, I didn't do what I know I should have done, which is, are you sure? But I didn't want to be pick me. And I'm not going to convince.
Nobody wants to be a pick me.
I'm not going to.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's a little, I still don't relate very much, but at least I'm reminded of what happened in the pods and how positive she was that he was going to pick her. And yeah, I forgot how reserved she was, how much more Laura was putting herself out, being more, not aggressive, but in the aggressive sense, but in the romantic aggression, like, hey, I like you, you like me, let's make this thing happen. So, okay. Still, DMing him while he's engaged? Yeah.
Convince a man to be with me.
Naturally.
Like, if you want to be with me, pick me.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's why I didn't tell him how he made me feel. Like, hey, you blindsided me. I didn't tell him, hey, this is how I feel about you. And, that was the end of it. And now I wish I had have said something like, hey, are you sure? Is that really your...
Okay. Well, then, and wait for him to break up. It probably would have happened anyway. So now this whole thing with Jeremy is looking, it was suspected as less innocent, but it's looking even more less innocent. Because I didn't know where she was coming from. I mean, we heard a little bit of it from the DM, but, hearing this, I wouldn't be surprised if Jeremy and Sarah are fully going out at this point behind the scenes. I don't know.
Choice, because he told me, he was like, I wish you maybe had have asked me that. He's like, because maybe it would have been different.
Shut up. So moving forward,
Correct.
to last weekend.
That I do want.
That's interesting. So AD seems very shocked, but given what we've seen, it doesn't shock me in the least. I think for AD, what she heard and saw, it would have looked more of a strong relationship, right?
Whereas with friends,
Yeah.
all of a sudden he's there. Mind you, I've never met this man in my life, right? And we have a full connection. So sure enough, we had a conversation. I got a lot off my chest, and we finally got to say exactly what I needed. And it was closure for me, right?
So he sent her his location.
Oh, he dropped me off.
So she's framing it as closure, and that sounds more innocent from her end anyway. Interesting.
Later that evening, and he was not in my apartment.
Yeah.
And I will stand by that till the day I die.
Well,
I did
where
not
was
cross the
he?
line with him, and I did not let him in my house. We were talking.
Okay. I don't have any reason to not believe Sarah. Who knows? But innocent until proven guilty. It sounded pretty believable. At the very least, she has a better way of sounding convincing than Jeremy does. Yeah, that sounded... And, when I heard the story from Jeremy, I don't know if I said this. I think I might have that, it could have absolutely have gone down like that. But that's not the point. The point is that you did it at risk of alienating and hurting your partner, putting ideas and paranoia in their mind, which would be normal, and you did nothing to try to prevent it. And then the next day when you tell her and take accountability, you had no compassion, no care, no love, no concern over her reaction. If you are trying to retain an engagement, you would put at least a little bit more effort into trying to convince her otherwise. Like, no, you don't understand. I didn't do anything. I love you. There was not even, there was nothing there from him on that. So that's, at least if I were Laura, what would hurt me. And although Laura didn't explicitly kind of word it that way, I suspect that was a part of it. I think Laura could have been convinced otherwise, maybe. I mean, it's hard to know. Laura's pretty, she has pretty strong limits, but if she was in love with him, which I think she was, I think she would have given a second chance if in that moment he had shown some love, some remorse, some care. But anyway, so, she sounded convincing. What do you think?
How to end?
He dropped me off and I went inside and we didn't chat because I told him, I was like, here's the thing. I was transparent with him too. I was like, you need to figure that out with Laura. I'm not going to be in a love triangle. It's like, at the end of the day.
Well, that's interesting. So I was wondering if he wanted to get together with her and she either drew a boundary or just didn't give the signal. Because he certainly risked a lot just to hang out with her in the car all night. And if you follow the timeline, he meets up with Sarah and, he's confused. Let's say that he's not completely a con artist and tempted, and something's different about him that causes him not to even think about Laura in that situation. He chases Sarah and, doesn't hit on her, but leaves the door open. Sarah doesn't really take the bait, and there's some romantic talk, and then Sarah says this. Sarah says, well, maybe even he was like, hey, can we talk later, or let's see each other again, or I don't know, whatever. And she's like, look, the way she's wording it, it sounds like she's pushing back on something. Look, you're going to have to figure out your relationship with Laura. According to the edit, the very next time he is talking to Laura, he is treating her like trash. So take note, Sarah. If you haven't already, this is you're a year in the past, so hopefully, she wouldn't have seen the scene between between Laura and Jeremy, and given Jeremy's ability to spin things, it's possible that Sarah would not know until she watched the show. But anyway, it's pretty interesting. It's almost like childishness, right? Like an inability to, look at the big picture, right? Which I guess fits with his childish presentation. There's something going on there.
Are engaged.
That's the thing, is I was told that he's,
Tell me, girl, make it make sense.
Yeah.
What did he tell you? What did he tell you?
He told me that he's breaking everything off, and
Yeah. She was thinking, should I say this? Because this will kind of throw him under the bus. But she's probably also thinking, I'm throwing myself under the bus if I don't tell her. And maybe this happened, maybe it did. But we could absolutely see that. And I imagine that even to be true. Because I think I threw out there, like, we don't know Sarah's, where she was coming from. There's a chance that she was, this horrible person that was invading the situation, didn't care about anything. Or he could have actually told her at the bar, hey, just to let you know, like, I'm breaking things off with Laura. So, nothing's going on. So, hey, let's talk. And we could absolutely see that, can we not? We don't know. We weren't there. Maybe Sarah's this liar, but innocent until proven guilty. And we definitely know that, at least from the edit, that Jeremy is guilty. He's shown his tendency.
I was like, okay.
So from the moment they got to Charlotte,
Correct.
You were under the impression that they were not engaged.
From the moment that they got back to Charlotte, I was
You were under the impression
No.
So you knew they were engaged.
I knew they were
when you sent
engaged.
the DM.
Right. So, that's still a thing. The DM was when at least she suspected they were still engaged, but the next time they talked was at the bar that night, I think. And she's claiming that at that night, now if he said that at the end of the night, then that kind of means something different, but, in the morning. But if he said it at the bar and then they, proceeded to have more of a conversation, then you kind of get it. Still, though, although I don't know how many people would do this when you're like, oh my God, I'm in love with you. I was in love with you. I'm sorry I didn't express myself. It's hard. But in a perfect world, she would say, have you broken up? Okay, you're telling me you're going to break up, but have you broken up? Does she know yet? And if no, then we can't have any more of this. I'm sorry, but definitely hit me up if when it's over, let me know.
Correct.
And you just
sent the message, but the message, and I can tell you what it said, was,
I saw it. No, I read it.
Well, and then you know in the message that it was thanking him for the experience, and if anything changes, then I would love the chance to get to know you. And I felt like that was a very, like, well thought out message.
Yeah, I don't know. On the scale of things, I would, given everything I'm hearing, I don't think there's a huge indictment on her personality or integrity or behavior. It's not very becoming, and I would hope most people wouldn't do something like that. But I don't know, like when Trevor asks Chelsea, even today, what if I had asked first? You could accuse him of a similar attempt to win someone over. Why would you ask that question if you didn't wonder if she made a mistake? When Jess is, although I guess Jess didn't on paper do any, but boy, her eyes were doing a lot of work. So that's interesting. It's like if you want to win the game, you say all the right things, but your eyes say a different story. But Jess was really great. She was very supportive of Chelsea, and maybe there was some implications. It's always the implication. Anyway, so Sarah she's not like as good as Jess is in this scenario, but not as bad as Jeremy. So I just worry that, I think there's this hope, especially if AD, who is loved by everyone, at least the last survey I sent out, going after somebody. And we don't really know Sarah. She feels like this, outsider. And I think there's this tendency to, I guess I worry that the internet will hate her and label her as some kind of vixen.
I hear you, but I think that's kind of crazy, Sarah. I'm
Sorry.
And
I appreciate your opinion, but
I
also
haven't
too,
said my opinion. I think it's really
well, you said
wild.
you think it's crazy, which is, yeah.
Okay. If I could be a little birdie on Sarah's shoulder, I'd say, just say, yeah, maybe you're right. I think it would be totally valid for Sarah to tell the truth, which I think is, yeah, maybe you're right. I sent that message. I really looked it over, and hearing it through your eyes, hearing through your eyes, from your perspective, maybe it was crossing the line. I didn't think that at the time. I wanted to say more, but I didn't. But when you put it, saying it the way, it was crossing the line, and that was wrong. But not as an excuse, but you have to understand, Clay asked you to marry him. I wanted Jeremy to ask me, and he didn't. And I felt like I had screwed things up because I didn't say what was in my heart. I was afraid, and I was beating myself up. I thought maybe I had completely missed the chance. And so I sent that thing. I probably shouldn't. I think Jess might have the ability to disclose and be authentic, but it's not what, I don't know, what adjective, immaturity or defensive or something that people typically do understand. They get defensive and they dig in and they're like, I'm perfect. Everything I did was perfect, and back off. It doesn't, it just invites more hatred. Does this spin out of control?
That's not my fault. That's his fault.
He did not choose you.
Okay.
So for you to then circle back when he made his choice.
Yeah, I didn't fight for him in the pods, and I probably should have. It makes me look like a really piece of shit person, but I can tell you that I maintain the fact that I was not with ill intent.
Yeah, I think I'm right about my conceptualization as to where she was coming from. All she has to do is say, maybe you're right. You don't even have to agree. You could be like, well, okay, that's food for thought. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. And that's all you have to say. You don't have to say you're right. You don't have to say, I believe I'm a horrible person. All you have to do is like, hey, maybe, because maybe she is right. Just say, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I'll think about that. And if I did something that was wrong, I don't really feel it right now, but, maybe I'm blind to it, and that's bad. I wronged Laura, and I made myself look like an invasive person, someone that does that. I didn't mean, you hear her saying, I had good intentions. That doesn't matter. In relationships, normally we're not going to be in this situation typically. Typically it's, 99% of our transgressions are unfortunately committed to our partners. And when they accuse us of, like, you hurt my feelings last night, it's not a defense to say, I didn't intend to. It doesn't matter. Just say, oh, did I? I'm sorry. Now you can say, I want to be clear, I didn't mean to. And clearly I came across wrong, or I was a dick and I didn't know it. I mean, all you got to do is record yourself, and you will see, especially in those kind of tense situations, and you will see, oh my God, I am a dick. I've done that before. I'm like, ooh. In the moment, I feel like I'm being perfectly calm and cool and fair and nice. You listen to it, you go, oh my God, the tone, what the hell am I? So assume that if someone is saying something about you, like in this situation, just say, well, I really want to defend myself, but you know what? How am I supposed to know? I'm not outside of me. Maybe I'm blind to something right now, and it would make sense that she was, because she got dumped and she wanted him. So she chose to overlook a harm that would happen. It wasn't a high crime as well. You're not admitting to killing a bunch of people. You're just admitting to chasing someone in a slightly unethical way. You didn't show up at his door naked or anything. You just DM'd him, hey, if you change your mind, and all you got to do is say, yeah, I guess with that sentence, I shouldn't have said that. You're right. That's all you have to say.
At the very end of the day, you knew that they were engaged.
I did know, but I also, again, my feelings deserve to be heard.
I'm not here to interrogate you.
My feelings deserve, now they edited that, but I don't know what that means, but my feelings deserve to be heard. My truth deserves to be heard. What?
But
I feel like you are interrogating me, though, kind of,
If you feel interrogated, that's on you, baby.
Is it?
It is.
Yeah. Well, it's clear to me that you definitely have vengeance for me.
Girl, I don't give two shits.
Yeah, AD, I haven't talked about her approach. She's doing way better than I would. I would not be able to do what she's doing. She's doing a fantastic job. She's not being hostile. She's just pointing it out. She's staying in it. She's not losing her cool. She's differentiated. She's in the right, and giving Sarah a lot of opportunity to just say, hey, you know what? Maybe you're right. I'll give it some thought. Maybe you're right. I apologize to you. I guess I'll go apologize to Laura as well. Do you forgive me? Or food for thought. I'll think about that. Thanks for telling me.
You're not fucking my man, so I don't care.
I don't want to have any bad blood with you or anyone else for that matter,
But when you demonstrate behavior that doesn't take into account other people's feelings and doesn't respond to feedback, then you set a precedent that you cannot be trusted, because there are always, particularly the closer you get to someone, there's always going to be conflicts. There's always going to be self-interest that will interfere with other people's needs and their rights. There's one cookie left in the cookie jar and there's two people, you want that cookie. How do you process that? And if you take the cookie and eat it and the other person says, hey, what do you do? How do you feel? What do you do? Do you say, live with it, screw you, it's my world and I get to do what I want? Or do you go, oh my God, how do you manage that whole thing? Someone says, hey, you took the cookie, or hey, you didn't put the toilet seat down and I fell in the toilet last night in the middle of the night. What do you do? It's not the transgression in particular, it's how do you react? Well, you should have looked down. Or, oh my God, even if you believe you should have looked down, oh my God, I'm so sorry, that's awful. Even if you believe it's unreasonable to put the seat down, which is silly, but It's just like, well, I don't want them to fall into the toilet, and it's not hard for me to put the seat down, and it's not hard for me to apologize right now. How do you deal with it? What do you do when you're confronted? So you set a precedent. You're showing what your pattern is, what you tend to do. On the scale of things, she's way better than Jeremy. So it's a precedent. You're sending a message. You're showing people.
I've always loved you. I've always liked you a lot, and
Okay.
you know.
Okay. I think it's weird that Sarah Ann thinks she did nothing wrong. I think infiltrating a engagement, whether they're happy or not, is not.
Right, and I guess that's a better point is, can someone admit that they did something wrong? Even if it's a minor thing. Like I said, she's not being asked to admit that she killed a bunch of people. She's just being asked to admit that, yes, it was wrong that I said that last sentence. It wasn't super explicit, but it was crossing a line. I was asking an engaged person to hit me up if they break up with their partner. Logically, it's reasonable, or not logically, looked at in a simplistic way, without taking into account Laura's feelings or how it looks. Yeah, but if you take into account Laura's feelings and how it looks, then it could be hurtful. It could be concerning. It can raise questions about your character. And to double down and not accept that and not say, oh, well, I hadn't considered that. I guess I did. You could say that. She could have said that too. She could be like, okay, I guess you're right. I hadn't thought about that at the time, and if I had, I wouldn't have done that. But, yeah, I can see that. You don't have to say you knowingly did something wrong, because maybe she didn't. Maybe she just didn't think of that at the time. She could even say, yeah, in the real world, I suppose that's true. And I guess I was applying kind of a different set of criteria for Love is Blind because, if I met someone that was engaged and they'd been going out for a couple years, I wouldn't do that. But since he had just met her and he also left the door open, which I think he did, I think I was like in a different mindset. But yeah, I guess if I look at it objectively, yeah, it was bad. So, there's a lot of angles to like admitting and even saying you're sorry without saying that you're a horrible person or that you did something malicious.
Do I think that she was right in her fucking actions? Not so much.
Are we kicking off?
But it's like, he's the one that made a commitment to me. He's the one that got down on one fucking knee and asked for my hand in marriage. He's the one that was supposed to protect my fucking heart.
Yeah, it's, I think, important that she is exhibiting this and they're showing it that Laura comes across as pretty tough, and it's hard to feel the vulnerability, the humanity. And of course, this is down, it did look legit, her relationship with him for the most part. And it's important for her to be able to feel this because, this is at the core of it. And it's helpful for us to see it because without this, it can seem like Laura was just more insulted rather than, really, really hurt.
And he hasn't.
Okay, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time when I continue watching if you want to. And everyone, please take care of yourself, truly, because you deserve it. You really, really do.